Hi, it's Tina Brinkley Potts, business strategist, online marketing trainer, and success coach. And today, for this series of the Amplify Your Expertise webinars, I have Aline Bender. So say hi.
Aloha. Aloha, everyone.
So
Hi, Tina.
I'm going to read Eileen's bio. She answered the call. I literally was looking for someone that I could have some of my clients talk to, or some people that would come to me and they would be afraid of selling. One of the things that I believe as an online marketing trainer and a success coach, I actually help you amplify you. So if I amplify you and you're afraid to sell, I'm going to amplify that you're afraid to sell. And a lot of people don't think of it that way. When they're looking for an online marketer to help them with their, to promote their business, they're looking for some kind of magic. But I'm only going to make you bigger. So if you're already afraid to sell, people will know that. You might get leads, you might not be able to convert them. So I went looking and I found Aline, and I was thoroughly impressed because in our initial conversation, she said so many of the things that I would say, and I was just like, okay, this is the right person. And I talked to a lot of people, but she was the right person. So I just want to preface all of this before we even get started. But Aline has what is the 60-second sell method. She has generated sales, been a top sales producer. She's back when she was 12, sold beef jerky door to door. How was that?
It was great. I didn't speak English too well. I figured what better way to learn English faster.
Wow. Okay. And you, so I'm going to let you talk about you, though. So tell the audience a little bit about you and why you are the person that they should listen to in this new economy when it comes about selling.
Oh, great question. Thank you, Tina, and thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I'm very blessed to have partnered up with you. We know that time has changed, and there's something called there's in sales most of the time, especially back in the 1990s and beyond, before that, if you went to, let's say, a car sales lot, the car salesman or saleswoman had more information about the car than the consumer. And now, because of the internet and social media, time has changed drastically. And now the consumers have more information than the salesperson. And the salesperson meaning not just in sales, specifically in any industry, but it's also if you are a physician, if you are a teacher, if you are something, people could look you up, research you, find out about you, and make a decision before they even speak to you if they want to do business with you.
Absolutely.
And in the training, and I'm a constant learner, so I love to learn from other sales trainers as a sales coach. And what I found, though, is that it's very rare that I've found anyone that has addressed those concerns.
Okay.
And it really comes back to being caring, which is a talk that we focused on, and we're going to cover that later on.
Well, I think you gave a great point just then when you talked about actually people do research you on the internet. So that's a great tip right from the beginning. I tell everybody, Google your own name. Google your company's name. Google your telephone number. See, a lot of people don't know that, but that really is a master trick. You Google your telephone number because all directories are built off of your telephone number. If I want to give you a review and I know your telephone number, I can review your company without you ever setting anything up on all of the major review sites like Yelp, Yahoo, all of those places. So again, you're right. We are so well informed. Sometimes we're too informed. You use when you were just talking about a doctor, a lot of people jump online. Let's say they think they have, some kind of a diagnosis. they go out and they research everything they can find, and sadly, whoever had the most popularity is the one who actually is what you see. So you might not have even wanted to know that. So I think that it's just so important that you can dispel some of the things that you see on the internet.
Absolutely.
So, Aline, why don't you tell me about how did you get into sales?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, that I sold beef jerky door to door when I was about 12 years old. And that's because when I was 11, I came from France, from Paris, France, to live in the United States. And I lived in Houston, Texas, which at the time they did not have ESL. So I had to figure out how to speak English on my own because I just joined a new family. So it was my step family. I had 3 step siblings, actually 4, and then the stepmother. And then also all my classmates, I couldn't communicate with any of them. So I learned English on my own quickly. And then I realized when I sold beef jerky that I was able to communicate more clearly with people. And when I made the exchange of collecting the money and giving them the beef jerky, they were happy. And I love that. I love seeing the satisfaction on the client's face. And I was doing this for charity for the PTA at my school. And so I was fascinated with that. And as time went by, I went into retail and experienced the same experience where I exchanged money for goods and really loved building the relationship with the clients that I would meet. And that from that point on, I fell in love with sales, fell in love with communication, and kept studying communication and kept my sales career. And just every single time that I could, I would ump it up, meaning I would I would join a company that gave me sales more flexibility in selling and also much more challenging as well.
Okay. Okay. You know, I think you have an interesting fact. You used to sell timeshares. Oh,
Yes.
I so remember every time, you know, getting those calls, come to Disney World, you know, learn a timeshare. I remember going to a lot of those things.
Get a free show,
Yeah.
get dinner, 2 tickets, or
and, and so that's a really tough and competitive market, right?
it is, and I had no idea. To be honest with you, I love selling, and I love because I love communicating and making that connection and helping someone make a big decision. So I actually wanted to go into real estate, and at the time, I mentioned in my bio that I was going through a divorce, so I was having some challenges financially, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the money to invest to market myself as a realtor. And a friend of mine told me, hey, how about timeshare vacation ownership? And I said, what the heck is that? They said, it doesn't matter as long as you have your real estate license, you could just get in. And I asked, well, do I need to put any money into marketing myself? They said no. And so that in itself, I was sold. And I just remember being on the line is what they call it, being on the rotation to go out and see a potential client. I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't even know what a timeshare was. And once I got to know it quickly, I fell in love with it. And I was really blessed to have worked with one of the largest companies in the world, which I absolutely still love and still keep in contact with my clients. But you're absolutely right. It is very competitive. And the main reason why is because many sales people that do come in do not make it. So they have to keep replacing people in. And a lot of people either burn out because it's very demanding. It's very demanding emotionally because the people are coming in, I would say 99.9% of them have no intention of buying a timeshare. They're really there for the free gift, which I don't blame them.
That was
And so I don't blame them at all. And that's part of the difficulty that some of the sales associates had, is that they had a hard time understanding that, respecting that, really looking at who's coming in and acknowledging, respecting that they're coming in and they have no intentions of buying, and it's nothing personal. And so being aware of what is really crucial. But yes, it was really challenging, and for me it wasn't so much challenging because I love connecting with people and I have that understanding, but it was challenging because the first year I went through a lot of personal difficulties, such I mentioned the financial difficulty because of my divorce,
Hmm.
being separated from my 3-year-old daughter, which was really hard, and then also my mother passed away that year. And so there was a lot of that going on, and most people in that kind of competitive atmosphere and having all these personal challenges just drop out. However,
Okay.
I was very fortunate to be a top producer for 6.5 years, well, the whole time that I was there.
Yeah, so you were in the top 1% though. So just saying
Yes.
top producer doesn't do it any justice. You were in the top 1%. That's huge.
It is, and it's interesting because for me, they reward you a lot. So you get free trips, which was really fun because it was a great way for me to travel, and I love free stuff. That's why I appreciate people coming in for a free gift, and that's where we had a lot in common with the people that come in to see us. And I was really fortunate. It's a great company. I still keep in contact with some of the top managers there, and I really believe in what they do. And they're in a difficult position too because there isn't this kind of training that I'm offering that to support their sales staff. It's still traditional sales training, which is ABC, always be closing, the Glengarry Gong Ross type of sales training.
Well, you know what? Let's get into that. The always be closing. Um, how do you feel about what is your perspective on that?
It's to me, it's very cold. It's very cold, and I'm looking back. I thought to myself, oh wow, are people going to judge me because I sold timeshare because it's known to be the heavy hammer and the always be closing. Then I realized, well, not so much because here I am with this sales system that is truly about molding, about being authentic, and then also about caring for the company and the potential clients in front of you. And I used that model in one of the most competitive, aggressive atmosphere, and it worked beautifully more than any other models. So it goes to prove that no matter what you're selling, caring isn't too soft. And always be closing to me, it's cold. And now that we're, like we mentioned earlier in the very early beginning of our conversation, is that we're going back to, okay, so how can you make yourself stand apart? People are Googling you, people are looking at you on Yelp. It's going back to connecting. It's
Hmm.
going back to, and now that we're really big on social media, we're always plugged in. It's going, I really believe in, for example, I studied Dr. DeMartini, he's one of my mentors, and he talks about balance. There's always a yin and a yang. So there's a movement going into everything is going technical, everything is going online, everything is going through the web. So where's the balance of reconnecting from face to face, one-on-one, or even what we're doing right now? I could see you, you could see me, they could see us, and that's going, okay, how can we take it further? And testing it that way and reconnecting us people to people and not just shooting an email or shooting a text. Or so it goes back to always be closing. It's, to me, it's coming from a place of being cold and
Yeah.
disconnecting as a human to human. How can it be of service to you? How can I support you?
Well, so don't you think that always be closing mentality is what has a lot of business owners thinking I can't sell. I don't want to come off as a pushy salesman, like a used card salesperson. It's like we have this mindset. This is what we believe selling is. And do you think that's a correlation? There's a correlation there?
Yes, absolutely, and especially with the movie that came out, was called The Wolf of Wall Street. It's I thought I would like the movie, but when I watched it, it bothered me. It bothered me because I don't know how much of that was real. It definitely gives. We're going back into again. Yes, it was entertaining, absolutely, just like the Boiler Room. It's fascinating and it's interesting, and there's a lot of up and down, which has a lot of drama. And although what it's still going back to portraying sales, especially those that, and it's so crucial. It's every business owner needs to know how to sell. If they're in business
Hmm.
and they say that they're not a salesperson, then how is their business going to grow? Think it's okay to stand out and say, you know what, I am a phenomenal physician, and here's why. Because here's the experience that my patients get, and this is what we do. This is how we care. Could we call that selling? Absolutely, that's selling. Could we call that always be closing? We can call that if you want, but it's also about promotion. It's about being open and sharing and being okay with saying, I'm great at this. I'm an expert as a business strategist, as you are, Tina, and it's absolutely okay to say that.
Yeah.
But in movies like I mentioned earlier, gives a back portrait of what always be closing looks like to me.
You know, and you know what I think the great thing is too is that that person has changed his life now. So what they made the movie based off of is not who he is now. So it's wonderful that he allowed people to see it, that the movie was made. He's actually, I think, like the proceeds of his books and his movies went back to give restitution for all of those people. And I think it's wonderful that he decided to make up for what he did. So I think that's just important to note that. Why don't you talk about, though, some of your best practices? Because, again, when I first talked to you, we had a really in-depth conversation, and I was like, you know, I don't know how I sell people. I just, you know, get me in the room with the person that is meant to be my client, and they will be signed up that day. And then I said, but I'm not selling them. Really, it's a lot of times it's coming from a warm handoff, a warm lead, because a client introduced me to someone, blah, blah, blah. And then you were telling me, well, wait a minute, that all is part of selling. And so why don't you talk about some of your best practices for regular old business owners like me who are like, I don't want to be the pushy used car salesman. What would you suggest?
Well, I want to say, first of all, that it's really difficult for you to come off as pushy if you absolutely 100% believe in what you're doing, because then it becomes more about being, we talked about it, inspiring, and and loving to connect. Here's a great product, or here's a great service. I think you will love it, and we do that already. That's why Yelp is doing really well, because its reviews. We want to share. You know, this restaurant is fantastic. I was just talking to someone yesterday. My husband was doing a canoe outrigger competition out on the North Shore of Hawaii, and I just met one lawyer, and we're sitting there talking with the wives, and we're just talking about food the whole time, and we're writing down notes exactly what places to eat, what to order. And the difference, though, as a business owner, that would be you. That would be you talking about, well, you'll love my food. You'll love you. And when you come, well, what is it that you love? Are you a vegetarian? Do you prefer a chicken? Do you prefer meat? And what kind of meat do you like? And get to know your potential client, then ask them key questions is number one, absolutely. And then finally going, you must come to my restaurant, and you will love this particular dish. And that's you could call it self-selling, you could call it whatever it may be. I love to call it just, you're inspiring and you're doing something that you absolutely believe, whether it's making food, whether it's helping someone with their business, whatever it may be. As long as you absolutely believe in what you're doing, share it. That's why, again, I go back to Yelp. That's why Yelp it's the way to go. I just told someone up there who's up in North Shore that's looking for a manicurist, Yelp it. Yelp, look for a manicure in the area that you're at, and just Yelp it. Read other people's reviews.
Yeah, and so, you know, a master strategy right now that I would give to anybody that is listening to this webinar, this hangout right now, is you should be using that in your business. You should be asking your customers to review you, especially if you're doing a good job and you are planning to operate in excellence and you're delivering excellence. The best thing you can do is have them review you on one of those review sites. Giving incentives for them to review you is huge. So knowing not only how to do it yourself, but just like you were talking about, you guys were sitting there, you were watching an event, but you were talking about all of the places you enjoy. And the reason why you enjoyed them was because they do a good job. They make you like the experience, so you'll come back. And that is the biggest part of selling, having something that's worth talking about.
Absolutely, just like the TED TV movement. And going to the sales method that I created as a sales system called the 60-second sell, it's about time. And we think about, okay, time and energy is at sometimes in certain situations is a lot more valuable than money. So if, for example, if I offer you $20 to hang out with me for an hour, and I'm going to just grind you with all kinds of questions about business, and you know in your head, okay, those are very detailed questions, and it's going to take this much of my energy, and an hour, is it really worth $20? You're going to think, no, thank you. The cash exchange is not in balance. It's not in fair exchange, is what I call it. So you're going to skip out on that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening on every level. When we think about it, so money and the exchange of cash is not as important as our time and as our energy. And so when we think about the client, we're asking them, yes, please review me on Yelp, review me on this, or like my Facebook page, or Twitter me, or follow me, whatever it may be. We got to come from a place, okay, where my client now, let's say now they're your client, maybe they're not social media savvy. Maybe and so communicating that and saying and knowing that means it could come from a place of, could you just write a review, and can I have your permission to take that review and post it on my social media? It could be in that form. So having an idea of what type of client, to be respectful of their time and their energy, because for someone it might take them 2 minutes to do a review. For someone, it might take them an hour to figure out how to even create a Yelp account.
Well, so talk about, you already talked about what makes you different, but talk about like some of the projects that you're working on, and how you're helping companies grow.
Okay, that's a great question. And I took a year off from selling and to produce my projects, and one of them is a book. I did a couple seminars. I've done some workshops, and I haven't made it public yet. So when people do go on my Facebook page, they'll see that I don't have that many likes. I won't buy any likes. I'm only doing it all organic. And I'm going to segue a little bit here. Please avoid buying any kind of likes on Facebook, and I'm sure you probably coach them on that, because you want to see organically what's working. You want to see, okay, great, this post has created this much likes, or people are forwarding it to others. So then you could keep targeting whatever it is that just drew a lot of attention. And it's going to be a slower climb, but it's going to be definitely more consistent. Wouldn't you agree, Tina?
Yes, so I'll give another master strategy there. A lot of the people that have been buying likes and things like that are now beginning to regret it, and I'm going to give you the exact reason why. First off, just like in high school, when you're doing things to be popular, it always bites you in the end. So remember that. But secondly, Facebook's algorithm changes all the time. And one factor that is in their algorithm, if you're on Facebook, how you get in front of the people in your news feed is one of the things is how, when you're looking at it, if you have 1,000 people on your page and you don't get one like on something, it looks out of balance. So buying likes and all of that kind of stuff means you don't have an engaged following. Your following isn't paying much attention to you. So that is now beginning to bite people in the end, because I know first a lot of people took and had profiles, and then they would just go and befriend all of these different people who they didn't know. And then they're like, well, wait a minute, I really shouldn't be on a profile if I'm going to do business. I should have a fan page. A lot of them still haven't converted. But even if they converted, they went and got all of these likes, and now they have no engagement. And engagement is an important part on how much of your news feed is seen by who's on your page. So not everybody's going to see unless you can start building that engagement. And the way you can test what I'm saying, so you don't have to believe it to be true, is if you have a fan page, go back and look at the bottom of your post. It will say 37 people saw this post or 200 people saw this post. But that number is never the same number of likes that you have on that page. So
Absolutely.
It's really important.
Wow,
Yeah.
great tips. Look at the bonus that everyone, that the listeners are getting from you.
I know this is about selling, so I'm going to let you talk though. So
I love it. I love it. And it talks about the energy that we have, synergy that we have among you and I and the listeners as well, and the watchers. Yeah. So going back to the projects, I believe in testing, and I also believe in first impression is still very important. And so I've been testing, and I just launched my Facebook page a few days ago, and had already close to 100 likes just organically, and it's been fun. And with what I'm working on right now, because I want to reach too many, I've been working one-on-one with business owners. However, I want to reach, how can I reach to as many people as possible? Because it took me so long. I've been collecting and studying sales for the last 10 years, and talking about really studying, meaning investing close to $100,000. Actually, probably a little bit over now since I'm counting. This year, I've invested even more. I just came back from 3 conferences in the mainland. And so I was thinking, well, people don't have the time, they may not have the money, and they may not have the energy. A lot of people are parents who are starting their own businesses. So I wanted to create an online system, and that's what I've done. I'm working on right now, I'm launching it, which is a 60-second sell system, in which is going to be about 12 videos that you could just, from anywhere, as long as you have any internet, you could learn it, and then you can master it. And there's a lot of, being in sales myself, I know what's needed, and especially since I've coached and mentored, I can tell the difference of whether you're, I know that people think about, are you a right brain or left brain, but being also considerate to the 4 different types of personality, which are the controller, the promoters, the analysts, and then the supporters. But I also cover 8 different types of personalities. Then once I complete that and I launch that, I'm also working on you taking a test, or maybe I'm not going to use the word test because most people don't think of test, oh no, or a quiz. Basically like a personality quiz, so you can find out what kind of salesperson you are. And there's going to be 8 different personalities of sales type, and then find out what kind of salesperson you are, your strength, and areas you could definitely work on. And then from there, give you the materials so that it's going to be a lot more customized, so that you can work on what you feel is missing. And then also, I'm launching my book too.
So that's good. So let's talk about that a little bit. So you have a process where you can identify the type of person that they are, and then customize what the best sales strategies should be for them.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, and I'm just thinking of things of what products and services I could have used so that I could shrink that 10 years and the $100,000 I invested in, shrink it down so that someone could have it something much more immediate. Because I mentioned this to someone else that I was coaching the other day, that sales does not give you time. Because if you take too long, you miss that opportunity. And so what can I do to support others so that they can learn quickly and apply? And the key is applying, taking action, and testing it. So maybe the first time that you apply it, it may be a little bit shaky, and then you do it again and again, and it's just like everything else. It becomes second nature. And then you become a natural salesperson.
Hey, Aline, we lost. Oh, okay, you're back now. Okay.
Okay.
I had lost your video. We could hear you, but we lost your video. But that's okay. I can see you again.
I probably was frozen.
Yeah, technology is wonderful, but we are still streaming over the internet, so we cannot control the signal strength. So, why don't you give a little sneak peek of like one strategy, just something simple. Okay. That Absolutely. People that are watching right now can go and start doing to improve their sales process or their conversions.
How exciting. I love that. Thank you for wanting to give that to your audience and to our audience. My sales techniques are very, someone would describe that as abnormal, because it is very different from the always be closing, which like it's still actually working in some places, and it's just not more, it's not conducive to what's changing, to what we're involved with now. So the number key thing that I teach people is grounding, and that's your number one step. You could do grounding at night before you go to bed, and also in the morning, and I do both. The more you do it, the more stronger you get. And I go into, in my book, there's a story about the Chinese bamboo, which I don't know if you heard of it, Tina, but basically that in China, with the Chinese bamboo, when you plant it, it takes about, the root is about this big, about 1 inch to 2 inch off the ground. And after the first year, you look at it and it doesn't change. Second year doesn't change. Third, fourth, fifth year. Finally, by the fifth year, it just shoots up, and it's at least 10 feet up, if not more. And the reason why is that all these years, it was growing downward. So the root was just getting itself deeper and deeper and deeper to ground itself, so that no matter what kind of weather would occur, a storm or strong winds, because in the area that the bamboos grow, there's really strong winds, it's very flexible and it can move. And so when in sales, we don't know what's coming at us. We don't know, especially in retail, for those that are in retail. I mean, my heart goes out to you, because people go into, where people are busy, they rush in, and sometimes there's a loss of communication, and it's like, just hurry up and get me what I need. And that could be exhausting for someone who's in retail, because there's a lack of connection, and then the retail person becomes almost like a robot. And so you don't know how the person's coming in. They may be really stressed, especially Starbucks. I would highly recommend for someone to read The Power of Habits, which there's a story about Starbucks and how long they train their employees about 2 months before they go out on the floor. And what they train them is how to handle different types of client. The ones that are very aggressive, the ones that aren't, because most of them are in a rush, that are very demanding. And so going back to the Chinese bamboo, is that in sales, you don't know what's coming at you. And it's really important to be grounded, because otherwise we can react. And if we're acting to someone who is being very aggressive, then are we going to react more aggressive? And when we do that, we always lose as a salesperson. We always lose. So it's not about being right. It's about being flexible. So number one is grounding. And how can you ground? Well, I don't promote any kind of religion. I am a very spiritual person. I believe I am. And so whatever is grounding for you, if it's meditation, if it's praying, I actually do pray every single night. And what I pray for is what I'm grateful for. One of the key things that I'd highly recommend to do, and I encourage that in all of my training, is to have a gratitude list. That's probably the most powerful way to ground yourself. And the gratitude list goes in 3 ways. Number one is to write down, you can write down the date. Specific is really important to write down the date. And you can start by saying, I am grateful now that I'm connecting with Tina. I am grateful that I've reached out to people and I've served them this morning. Well, actually, it's afternoon now. And go on for what's really has happened in your life now. I'm grateful for living in beautiful Hawaii. I'm grateful that my family is alive and healthy. And so after you're done with your list, the second part is you write down what it is that you want to be grateful for. Meaning, what is it that you want to put out there? I'm grateful now that my book launch has launched very successfully, and it served 2,000 salespeople out there. And so the things that you want to affirm. And then the third one is, what are you, and this is what's missing, because The Secret did talk about that, The Secret, the DVD, did talk, and also in the book, which is the first one version. If you could get a hold of the first version, it's the original version, I recommend that versus the second one. But anyhow, because the second one, they took out a lot of part. And then Esther Hick is in the first one, which is, she's phenomenal. But what's missing in The Secret was the third part. And the third part is about fair exchange. Yin and yang. What are you willing to give in order to receive back? So what are you willing to give? So and what I mean by that is, I am willing to give my time and my energy for those that are seeking support in sales. I am willing to give, every 2 hours of my day to research this so that I can offer that to my followers. So that's what I mean by exchanges. And so that in itself is a great way to ground yourself. You do that for test it. I always share with everyone that I talk to or coach, test it, prove it wrong. Do it for 30 days. See how that goes.
I so love everything you just said. I mean, there's just so many levels to what I love. First and foremost, I want to talk about, because you gave so much there, I had to start coming over here and writing notes to make sure I come back and talk about some of the stuff that you said. First and foremost, I believe in processes of grounding. I also believe that you should do a physical grounding too, where you're doing something with your body and you're grounding. I love a guy named Bo Eason. I say he should be my baby daddy. I'm just kidding. But he teaches people how to be a little bit more physical when they're, and how to develop your signature story. And he talks about doing this thing on rocks. You roll your feet on rocks to help ground you. Me personally, I was experiencing a tumor in my stomach, and so I stopped doing physical exercise, and I was looking for something else to use. And I started using Qigong. And when I started using Qigong, I learned how to bounce into my heels. And I can tell you there's something about that planting. And like you were saying, if someone's coming at you, I can tell you how good this works just by an example I had a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, an employee husband came to my place of business and wanted to pick up his wife's check. Now, normally my bookkeeper would do that as a courtesy, but at this time I needed to speak with her. And in that company, a lot of my employees, they actually work in the field, so I don't get to see my employees on a regular basis. The only time I really get to see them is when they're dropping off paperwork or picking up their check. And we left calls, telephone calls and everything for her a few days before, telling her that she had to come in. And lo and behold, she never called back. She didn't answer any of the, didn't listen to any of the voicemail texts or anything that we sent her. And her husband shows up. And so they would not release the check. And he became livid. He started calling me all kinds of names. I'm on the phone. I'm sitting at a doctor's office. And it got to be so bad that my employees were like, they didn't know what to do. I mean, they actually had fear. And so they called me, and literally I was like, okay, listen, I don't know what happened in your day that's making you react to this, but we've been doing that as a courtesy. You're not my employee. You can't talk to my employees that way, so I really think you need to leave. But I can tell you a little while ago, I would not have reacted like that. I can tell you, if you met me about a couple years ago, it would not have been so pleasant. I probably would have, because he was going way to the left. But it's important. It really is an important thing that you can use. And I'm not going to, I'm going to admit to my faults, but I'm so glad that I do a grounding practice every single day, single day, mentally and physically. And, gratitude, I think you touched well into that, so I'm not even going to hit on that one. But fair exchange, that was so hot that you just said that. And the reason why I love that is because what are you willing to give to get what you want? A lot of people think you're going to just show up and you're not going to have to give anything. Like, they'll show up and be like, okay, I saw what you did with him. I want you to do that for me too. And it's quite clear that they want me to work harder in their business than they're actually going to work. It doesn't work that way. It has to be a fair exchange for what you want. So if you're not willing to spend money, then maybe you're going to be willing to give up time. If you're not willing to give up time, then maybe you're going to be willing to spend money. But what you want has a cost. The cost may be something as simple as getting still and being mindful so that you can make the right decision, but it has a cost. So there has to be a fair exchange. So my goodness, when you said that, my pen started. I was like, oh, I got to write that down. I got to write that one down. So,
Oh gosh, Tina, you're amazing. I love what you said too, because it's it's such a relief when I connect with people like you who understand it. And when you said it, when exchange, yes, it could be money, it could be time, it could be energy, but what you said was powerful. And for those that are your clients are listening, I mean, they've made the right choice to go with you, because what you said was key. It's about stillness. And that's what I teach in sales, is that being present. It doesn't mean you have to give your firstborn child away as the exchange. It can be as simple as what I'm willing to give today to earn that business, and for you to bring a qualified client who's ready to buy, who has the financial backup to do it, or to invest in my company, my product, my service, is that I'm going to be fully 100% present with them. And do you know how rare that is? I watch people a lot because I'm a sales scientist in my own mind, but what I notice is that, well, especially here in the United States, it's people who know each other, they walk by and they go, hi, how are you? And they just keep walking. But they just asked a question, and they asked a valuable question, how are you?
mm-hmm.
And I grew up in France, and in France, we see at 6 o'clock in the morning, we see groups of people talking in the corners, and they're actually, if you ask them, how are you, they'll lay it all out. And so it was really strange to me, and still now I still watch and see what happens when someone says, hi, how are you, and they just walk by, when that's such a valuable question.
Well, you know, I didn't even hit on the last thing that you said. The fact that you mentioned Esther Hicks, and I literally just went to see her live this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome. So, Aline, before we go, I did have a couple of people send me some questions. They were not sure if they were going to be able to watch. One of the things I told them is it would be recorded, so that, you know, they'll be able to, you know, look at it on their leisure. But one of them was like, they are petrified of selling.
Okay.
Petrified. What's the first thing?
The first thing is to, okay, well, let's go back to fair exchange. So I'll answer that question in the bigger picture, and then go all the way back to that main question. We look at fair exchange. Fair exchange really, and I got this formula, and I would love to give credit to whoever I study and I've learned this from, because there's nothing new about all the information we have, and I'm sharing with you. It's all from collected either experience or from other mentors that I have. And Dr. DeMartini is one of my biggest mentors, and he talks about what is fair exchange. It's self-worth plus other worth. So again, I'll repeat that. Self-worth plus other worth equals net worth of fair exchange. And so with the person who mentioned that they're very fearful of sales, I think there's something a little bit deeper than that. So what is that person's self-worth? Meaning, do they not think they're good enough? Do they not think that they're, depending on what product it is or service area, let's say they're a coach, do they not feel that they're filled with self-worthiness enough that they can give? And I would go to that more than about the techniques, because the techniques is literally 5% of what I teach. Okay. 95% of it is more about your state of being, your state of mind and your state of being. And so for those that are really, really scared about sales, I would go into what is your self-worth. Now, with pointing that out, I like to give tools to support that person in increasing their self-worth. And it's a gratitude list to themselves. I am grateful. I'm grateful now that I am alive. I'm grateful now that I can walk. I am grateful now that I can speak English. There, like I mentioned, when I came to America, I didn't speak one word of English, maybe hi. That was it. So being able to communicate in English, and I've traveled the world, English is the most used language. It's a powerful language. And for those that speak English already, fluently, they're powerful already. Especially in 2 years from now, there's going to be 2.5 billion people that are going to go in the internet worldwide. And guess what? They would love to learn English. And if you can speak English already, that's high. That's already building a lot of your self-worth. What else? Okay, I'm grateful that I am a mother. I'm grateful that I am a father, a friend, or whatever it may be. So I would say, I would challenge that person, say, write 100 things that you are grateful for about yourself. Mm-hmm. And then once you build that, okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 would be asking their closest friends or their relatives, what are the top two things that you like most about me? Is that what, once they hear that, and then they actually own it and be with that person to truly own that trait, then again, they're building their self-worth. And they're seeing what a difference they make in people's lives. So when they go out there and it's their product, and let's say they're not sure about their product, they could do the same thing about their product or their service. What is it that they're grateful about their product and their service? Or Google it and then look at the reviews of the product and service of the company that they're affiliated with and they're sharing. So they can see how helpful it is. Because if we did not share let's say we talked about the restaurant, or I shared you on my page and on my Facebook page as well, you have helped so many people. Mm-hmm. You've supported them in sharing their voice, their talent, so that it helps even more people. We're all connected worldwide. We're going to be a lot more connected, like I mentioned, 2.5 years from now. So your product and service could feed a family. Create the lifestyle for someone so that they can be and spend time doing what it is that they are passionate and love. It could be that one product, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you I was going through a challenge, is what I'll call it. It's gone now, but a challenge. And every day I had to go to sleep with and wake up with, why do I do this? You know, literally, because when adversity comes, you got to know why. You really got to know why you do this. And so I had to say to myself, I help 40 people feed their families just directly when it comes to my employees. I help 40 other people feed their families. And then I said, okay, well, my online marketing trainings are being seen in 25 countries. So I'm helping people in 25 countries learn how to do what I do. I am helping, you know, when I think of the money that has been generated because of the time and the effort I spent, I don't know how many more families that I'm helping to feed. But I had to take it back to that level, because sometimes you were beginning to wonder, okay, wait a minute, why did I go through all of this today? Why am I going through this today? And it really does go back to understanding why you do it. I love being in service. I love helping other people. It's what I was born to do. And so now I make sure that I carry that with me. So I agree, that definitely would be part of a self-worth issue. So Aline, another question, because you know we have probably about 8 minutes left if we want to keep it tight to a good hour. Another question that I was asked is, when you talk about the 60-second sell method, does it work for products as well as services? Because when I told people I was having someone on who created a 60-second sell method, they're like, in a minute? Okay, I gotta know this, whatever it is. But are you sure it works for everything? Is it gonna work if I'm a coach? Is it gonna work if I have some kind of a widget to sell? Is it gonna work if I have a physical business like I have here? Is it gonna work if I have a virtual business?
Okay, it works for any type of transaction that you make. So transaction is the mechanical part, but it comes down to the communication part. It works whenever you are relating with someone else. And I taught that. I went to like I mentioned, a conference not too long ago, and we were on the bus, on the charter bus, getting to the location of the conference, and I talked about it, and the person said, "Wait a minute, I've been in sales before. I've done many sales training. I've done the Dale Carnegie training, and I've never heard of this. Show me." And I showed it to her in less than 5 minutes, and she was able to practice it the full week of the time of the conference. And she said she couldn't believe it. Of all the years of training she's learned, she's never heard of something like this, and has never seen something work that quickly. Because when we think about, let's say, an online business, and then you say you're selling something on eBay, you also got to, what I teach, and it's in the process, and it's step 1 is this, step 2 is this, and there's about eight steps, and then there's a 9 bonus step. And so one of the steps I'll share with you, I'll leak it a little bit, is owning traits. What do I mean by that? So even with you and I, when we communicate, Tina, like you mentioned very early on this webinar, is that you and I all automatically clicked, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And because I used the 60-second sell method with you.
She told me.
and it's because I related to you. And this is what's going to be really difficult for people to understand, is to let go of your ego. It doesn't mean Tina has to be like me. In order for me to like Tina and to connect with her and work with her, she has to be like me. No, it's the opposite. It's just like Bruce Lee. I love some of the things that he said. One of the main things he said, and I posted on my Facebook page, is, "Be like water, my friend." When the water changes in so many forms. Right? And you did Qigong, I did that too, also at 5 o'clock in the morning, right before work. It was powerful. But it's about being flexible. And we talk about the bamboo as well. So be flexible. Step outside of what you want. Step outside of who you are, and really be an open canvas to the type of clients that you want to attract. And so when I met with you, Tina, and right from the get-go, I already grounded myself. I already made myself a blank canvas, and I just let you lead, and I just rolled with you. And whatever it is that I can see that I'm connected with you, that's when I made the connection. And that's how being authentic. It doesn't mean I'm being you, but I just was open to letting you guide first and seeing where I could fit myself into your world, not the opposite.
Great. And you did. You really did. I mean, the great part is you didn't do anything that was outside of who you genuinely are. And that was one of the most important parts of it. Is I showed my true self, you showed your true self, and we figured out it was a match. Because there are times when we realize it isn't a match, and as a business owner, you need to be able to say bye-bye. You don't want to always, every sale is not for you. A lot of people don't understand that, but it's not. But you and I were a match. I mean, like I said, I've talked to many people, and I wanted to talk about selling, and nothing resonated with me until I talked to you.
And thank you, and you're absolutely right. Being at this point right now, for those who are new at selling and promoting themselves and sharing, keep in mind that you're doing a service to the world. Your product, your service, who you are, you're meant to share. That's what we're human beings. We're meant to connect with each other, and that's what we're always seeking. How can I be of service? Every single one of us. Even if you're behind the scene and no one talks to you and you're just plugging data, whatever it may be, you're empowering others in your own way. And so let go of the ego, ground yourself, and share who you are. Share your product and your service. You have no idea of the impact that you have on the people that are using the product or the service.
Wow. So, Aline, we are about out of time, but what I want to do is give you an opportunity to, tell people how they can contact you. Do you have any kind of like information they can see? What is it that you would want? What would be the next step for those that want to connect with you?
The way I've released my social media right now is I've just launched my Facebook, as I mentioned. And so I would suggest for people to connect with me. Go and find my page, Aline Bender, and actually I'll go ahead and post that on your account, I believe, and then they can connect that way.
Mm-hmm.
At Aline Bender Hawaii, and it's the 60-second sell method, but it's under my name. And I'm going to do this on a daily basis where I'm going to post a question. For anyone who has a question, I'd like to keep in contact and really connect with my followers. So I want to, if there's more questions and it's specific to what they do, post it on my Facebook page and I'll answer it directly. And everyone who's listening right now, who's joined this webinar, is going to get once my book is released in August, they're going to get a free ebook copy of it.
Okay. So one of the things is that this will be on replay, and for those that have opted in, and I guess I should have had that opt-in information, because she's going to give you a free digital version of her book. So let me find it really quickly, so you don't miss out on that opportunity, which I think is phenomenal. 1 second. It only took me 1 second more.
What I also want to mention, in the 60-second sell method, I teach you specific questions. There's 7 types of questions to ask, and they're very, very powerful. And so that's going to be very useful for those that are unsure about how to sell, or that they are concerned about selling and don't want to come off salesy. So I have specific questions for them to follow that can be customized easily to any type of industry.
Great, great. So for all of those that would like to get a free digital copy of Aline's book, and you have not yet opted in to receive the replay of this webinar, you want to text your name and email address to 302-407-0559, and when her book comes out, you will actually get your free copy. That's such a great gift. Thank you. Thank you for giving that to my listeners, because that's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, and this is officially my first time really coming out and opening up and sharing, and I'm very grateful that it's been with you and your listeners.
Oh, thank you so much. And for more webinars in this series, the Amplify Your Expertise series, go to my website, tinabrinkleypotts.com, and you can find all of the events that will be listed every time. You want to check back often, because I get great guests like Aline. So Aline, I want to thank you, because again, all of the information you gave was powerful. You gave great examples. I hope everyone out there that's a business owner that needs help selling buys your book.
Thank you very much, Tina. Pleasure.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye. Aloha.